During a live broadcast of a popular daytime talk show, one of the co-hosts attempted to make a strong, headline-worthy point by presenting what she described as a damning piece of evidence: a leaked email. The email was introduced with a level of drama and certainty, as if it were a silver bullet meant to unmask deception or contradiction. The intention was clear: catch the guest off guard, expose them as dishonest or hypocritical, and claim a rhetorical victory in front of a national audience. What followed, however, was an unintentional reversal of that plan, broadcast live to millions. The moment began with all the suspense of a well-staged confrontation. The co-host, known for her outspoken political positions, signaled that she had something explosive to share. With the tension rising and cameras rolling, she proceeded to read aloud the contents of the email. Her tone conveyed the expectation that this would be a gotcha moment, one that would provoke a defensive reaction and undermine everything the guest had said previously. But as the words of the email spilled into the open, something unexpected happened. Instead of delivering a blow, the email contradicted the co-host's own framing. It was as if she had handed the guest a live microphone to correct the record with evidence she herself had just read aloud. In that instant, the dynamic on the stage shifted palpably. What was meant to be an ambush devolved into an embarrassing oversight. Listeners quickly realized that the content of the email did not incriminate or implicate anyone in the way the co-host had hoped. In fact, it did the opposite. It provided context and nuance that had previously been missing from the discussion. Rather than revealing dishonesty, it revealed intention, process, and even professionalism. The email made a case, not for scandal, but for due diligence and transparency. The fallout of this miscalculation was immediate, especially for those watching closely. Some viewers were confused. Why would someone broadcast this email as incriminating when it actually served to clarify matters? Others were amused by the irony of the situation. A televised attempt at entrapment turned into an accidental exoneration. And there were those who saw something deeper in the moment, a cautionary tale about the dangers of assuming guilt from partial evidence, especially when broadcast to a live audience. The production environment of a live show leaves little room for real-time fact-checking. Everything depends on preparation, and in this case, that preparation was lacking. The decision to use the email as a tool of confrontation, rather than a prompt for thoughtful dialogue, exposed a rush to judgment. This kind of misstep is more than a simple broadcasting blunder. It reflects a broader issue in contemporary media discourse. The pressure to create viral moments and sharp sound bites can overshadow the responsibility to present information accurately and in context. Here, the co-host's eagerness to score a rhetorical win overrode the basic journalistic instinct to thoroughly vet a source before putting it on air. What made this moment particularly striking was that it happened in real time, with no edits or second takes. The spontaneity of live television revealed both the fragility of unprepared narratives and the power of documentation to speak for itself. When a document like an email is read in its entirety, it resists manipulation. Its meaning is there for the audience to assess directly, without interpretive filters. The very tool that was supposed to frame the guest as evasive or untruthful ended up supporting a more complex and ultimately less scandalous picture. This moment also shone a light on the audience itself. Many viewers are more media savvy than they are given credit for. They recognize when something doesn't add up, and they notice when a narrative begins to collapse under the weight of its own assumptions. Watching this particular exchange unfold, some viewers may have felt frustration. Not necessarily because of political alignment, but because they expect higher standards of evidence and argument from those in influential media roles. Others may have felt vindicated, watching as a prematurely delivered accusation unraveled through nothing more than the text of the email itself. The incident served as a stark reminder that, in the realm of public discourse, preparation and context are everything. When someone aims to land a blow with a leak, they better be certain it says what they think it says, because once it's read aloud, it speaks for itself. In the tense atmosphere of a live television broadcast, few moments carry more weight than an unexpected challenge from a host. When a co-host produced a leaked email and read it aloud in front of a national audience, The expectation was clear. The guest would be cornered, rattled, or caught in a contradiction. The surprise tactic was meant to throw the guest off balance, disrupt their narrative, and expose them under the glare of the studio lights. Yet, the actual outcome was markedly different. Instead of reacting with alarm or defensiveness, the guest responded with composure that shifted the entire tone of the exchange. Remaining calm in a high-pressure situation is a skill often praised but rarely mastered, especially when the stakes are amplified by millions of viewers and an adversarial tone. In this case, the guest displayed remarkable steadiness in the face of what appeared to be an ambush. Rather than scrambling to refute the contents of the email or becoming visibly irritated, the response was measured, confident, and deliberate. The guest did not dismiss the email, but instead used the moment to provide clarification and reframe the conversation with facts and context that had previously been left out. This approach turned what was meant to be a moment of entrapment into an opportunity for credibility. It illustrated how staying composed under scrutiny can be more powerful than reacting emotionally or defensively. The guest maintained eye contact, did not interrupt, and allowed the host to finish reading the email in full. Only after the audience had heard it all did the guest begin to unpack the message, pointing out its actual content and dispelling the assumptions being made about it. This response showcased an important principle often lost in heated media exchanges: the value of allowing the facts to speak before jumping to conclusions. By not reacting hastily, the guest gave the audience a chance to hear the full message themselves. That approach invited the viewers to be part of the truth-finding process, rather than mere spectators to a combative exchange. It transformed the tone from adversarial to analytical, demonstrating that confidence comes not from volume or bravado, but from understanding the details and standing firmly on a foundation of facts. In situations like these, it is easy for the pressure to derail the flow of communication. Theatrics, misinterpretation, and hyperbole often dominate live media formats where the pace is fast and the audience expects drama. Yet, what emerged here was a quiet demonstration of control. The guest didn't need to over-explain or dispute every word. Instead, the focus was on explaining the intent and context behind the email, allowing the document to serve as a piece of evidence rather than a weapon. The very email that had been meant to undermine the guest's position instead offered an opportunity for a more thorough and thoughtful explanation, one that had not been part of the conversation until that moment. The display of poise also underlined how powerful it is to resist being pulled into the emotional tone set by others. The host had introduced the email with an almost accusatory edge, expecting to provoke discomfort. Yet the absence of agitation from the guest made the moment less about confrontation and more about discernment. Viewers were able to see in real time the difference between assumption and substance. That contrast was only made possible because of the deliberate calm with which the situation was handled. A key lesson emerged from this interaction: the best response to unexpected scrutiny is not panic, but preparation and clarity. When someone knows the truth of their position, they can handle misrepresentation with composure. They don't need to overpower the moment with indignation or denial. They can simply redirect attention to the facts. In a world where public discourse often rewards the loudest voice or the most dramatic comeback, this approach was refreshing and deeply effective. The visual and emotional cues of television amplify every gesture, pause, and inflection. That's why such displays of self-control can resonate so powerfully with viewers. The camera catches every eye movement, every breath, every shift in tone, and in this case, what it captured was someone who was not just defending a point, but inviting the audience to see the bigger picture. The misfire from the host was not mocked or weaponized in return. There was no gloating or escalation, just a steady pivot to facts and context. This calm, reasoned approach highlighted the importance of substance over spectacle. In an era of reaction-driven content, where narratives can spiral from a single misinterpreted sentence, it was a moment that reminded viewers of the enduring strength of clarity, context, and composure. The incident that unfolded during the live broadcast is a vivid illustration of the complex and often precarious role media personalities play in shaping political discourse. When influential figures take to the airwaves to dissect, analyze, or critique current events, their words carry immense weight. The way they present information, especially in a charged political climate, can sway public opinion, fuel debates, and sometimes even alter the trajectory of narratives that dominate headlines for days or weeks. This particular moment underscored just how delicate that balance can be, especially when media figures present sensitive material like leaked emails without fully verifying or contextualizing it. Media personalities are often seen as gatekeepers or interpreters of information. They decide which stories gain attention, how they are framed, and which aspects are emphasized or downplayed. This responsibility carries a heavy burden because the audience frequently trusts these figures to distill complex issues into digestible segments, especially during live broadcasts where spontaneity adds a layer of authenticity. However, this trust can become a double-edged sword. When information is presented without adequate verification or context, the consequences can be significant. Misinformation can spread rapidly, and public trust can erode just as fast. In this case, the co-host's decision to read a leaked email live on air was clearly intended to expose wrongdoing or inconsistency. Yet, the incident revealed a pitfall inherent in sensationalizing leaked information without fully grasping its content. The email, when examined in its entirety, did not align with the narrative the host seemed to be pushing. This mismatch between expectation and reality highlighted how the rush to create compelling television moments can sometimes overshadow journalistic rigor. Sensationalism, while effective in grabbing viewers' attention, can inadvertently lead to misrepresentation or oversimplification of complex issues. The incident also highlights how the live format of certain media adds pressure to make quick judgments. Unlike pre-recorded segments that can be edited or fact-checked before airing, live broadcasts require on-the-spot decisions. This environment creates opportunities for spontaneous, unscripted moments that can be both captivating and risky. The tension and unpredictability of live television amplify the stakes for everyone involved, from hosts to guests, and inevitably affect how information is conveyed and received by the audience. Moreover, this episode serves as a reminder that the power dynamics in media are often asymmetrical. While media personalities have platforms that amplify their voices, the individuals they challenge or scrutinize may not have the same ability to respond immediately or on equal footing. This imbalance places an additional ethical responsibility on media figures to ensure accuracy and fairness. Presenting leaked materials or unverified documents without careful consideration can lead to unwarranted reputational damage or skew public perceptions unfairly. The broader context of today's media landscape also plays into this scenario. With the proliferation of social media, instant news cycles, and a hunger for viral content, media personalities face immense pressure to produce moments that capture attention quickly. The competitive nature of this environment often incentivizes sensationalism and confrontation, sometimes at the expense of depth and nuance. This dynamic can encourage a gotcha mentality, where the goal is to trap a guest or generate controversy rather than foster informed discussion. Yet the incident in question also underscores the crucial role media can play in holding powerful figures accountable. When handled responsibly, investigative reporting and informed commentary can illuminate truths, expose wrongdoing, and foster public awareness. The challenge lies in balancing this watchdog function with the obligation to maintain integrity, verify facts, and provide context. The live reading of the email intended as a decisive blow instead became a cautionary example of what can happen when this balance is lost. Public reaction to such incidents often reflects the growing skepticism toward media. Audiences are increasingly aware of bias, spin, and incomplete storytelling. When a high-profile moment backfires or reveals a lack of preparation, it can feed narratives about media unreliability or partisan agendas. This skepticism can be damaging to democratic discourse, as it undermines confidence in the information ecosystem that citizens rely on to make informed decisions. At the same time, the incident sparked conversations about the ethics of using leaked materials in public forums. Leaks, by their nature, often involve sensitive or private communications that may be taken out of context or used strategically to influence opinion. The decision to broadcast such materials live adds another layer of complexity. It raises questions about consent, privacy, and the potential consequences for individuals involved. Media personalities must weigh these considerations carefully, balancing public interest against respect for confidentiality and fairness. In essence, the event captured the tightrope walk that media figures must perform. Their influence is undeniable, but so is the risk of missteps that can have far-reaching effects. The live reading of the email demonstrated both the power and the peril of media in political discourse. The power to shape narratives instantly, and the peril of doing so without full understanding or verification. It illuminated the need for greater care, preparation, and ethical reflection in how media professionals handle sensitive information, particularly when the goal is to inform rather than inflame. The exchange that took place on live television quickly ignited widespread reaction across social media platforms, illustrating how moments in traditional media now ripple through the digital sphere with remarkable speed and intensity. What might once have been confined to a studio audience or a television viewing schedule now becomes a topic for instant public debate, commentary, and even scrutiny from millions worldwide. This particular incident became a flashpoint for discussions not only about the content of the email and the dynamics between the host and guest, but also about broader questions concerning the responsibilities of public figures and the ethics involved in the dissemination of sensitive information. Social media users reacted with a mix of amusement, criticism, and analysis. Many were quick to point out the irony of the situation. The attempt to trap a guest with a leaked document instead turned into an unintentional revelation that undermined the host's position. This irony fueled a surge of memes, tweets, and posts highlighting the unpredictability of live television and the dangers of rushing to judgment without thorough preparation. The viral nature of these reactions underscored how quickly narratives can evolve and spread in the modern information ecosystem, where audiences are not passive consumers, but active participants in shaping discourse. The incident also sparked debates about journalistic ethics and the obligations that come with a public platform. Viewers and commentators questioned whether it was appropriate to use leaked materials in this manner, especially on a live broadcast with little room for context or correction. Leaks often contain partial information or are designed to advance specific agendas, making their unfiltered presentation potentially misleading or damaging. This raised important questions about the balance between transparency and responsibility, how to weigh the public's right to know against the risk of misinterpretation or manipulation. Many commentators emphasized that public figures, especially those with large audiences and influence, bear a heightened responsibility to handle information with care. The ethical considerations extend beyond the immediate moment of broadcast to the longer-term impact on reputations, public trust, and the quality of political discourse. The incident highlighted how a failure to uphold these responsibilities can quickly erode credibility, not just for individuals, but for the institutions they represent and the media outlets that broadcast their exchanges. At the same time, the public's reaction revealed a sophisticated awareness of media tactics and the complexities involved in political communication. Audiences demonstrated an ability to discern when moments were staged for dramatic effect versus when genuine information was being shared. The discussion reflected broader concerns about gotcha journalism, where the goal is less about uncovering truth and more about scoring points or creating viral moments. This skepticism is part of a growing media literacy among viewers, who increasingly demand nuance and context in reporting rather than sensationalism. The debate also touched on the risks associated with leaks themselves. While leaks can be crucial tools for transparency and accountability, they also come with inherent challenges. The fragmented nature of leaked information can distort reality if presented without comprehensive context. Moreover, the ethical implications of using private or confidential communications as public ammunition are complex. Viewers and analysts debated where to draw the line between legitimate public interest and invasion of privacy or unfair targeting. This incident also highlighted the evolving relationship between traditional media and digital platforms. Moments like these illustrate how the boundaries between television broadcasts and social media commentary are increasingly blurred. What happens in a studio can immediately become fodder for online debate, fact-checking, and even coordinated campaigns to defend or criticize the parties involved. This dynamic creates both opportunities for greater public engagement and risks of misinformation spreading unchecked. The public's engagement with the incident underscored the democratic importance of informed dialogue. The conversations sparked on social media ranged from lighthearted to deeply critical, reflecting a citizenry eager to hold both media figures and political actors accountable. This kind of active engagement is vital in a healthy democracy, where transparency and scrutiny are essential. However, it also demands that participants, whether media personalities or audience members, commit to fairness, accuracy, and respect for complex truths. Furthermore, the incident prompted reflection on the role of civility and respect in public discourse. The tone of much online discussion ranged from supportive to harshly critical, highlighting the challenges of maintaining constructive dialogue in an era of polarized opinions and rapid information exchange. The viral moment became a microcosm of broader tensions within political communication, where moments of misunderstanding or misstep can escalate into broader cultural flashpoints. Ultimately, the widespread public reaction to the live exchange served as a powerful reminder of the responsibilities that come with visibility and influence in the media landscape. It illustrated how quickly narratives can shift, how audiences actively participate in interpreting and disseminating information, and how ethical considerations in the use of leaked materials remain deeply relevant. The incident spurred important conversations about transparency, fairness, media literacy, and the evolving nature of public debate, reflecting the complex and interconnected ecosystem in which modern political discourse unfolds. The incident on live television serves as a striking example of how moments in political discourse can quickly transcend the immediate setting and spark widespread conversations that reach far beyond the original context. It highlights the power and responsibility that come with being a public figure in the media landscape today. When personalities with large platforms engage with sensitive or potentially explosive material, their approach can either contribute to a more informed and nuanced public conversation or, conversely, fuel misunderstanding and division. What unfolded was a powerful reminder that preparation, context, and composure are essential elements when handling complex information, especially in a live format where there is little room for error. The situation demonstrated that rushing to judgment without fully understanding the details can backfire dramatically. It also showed how a calm and clear response, grounded in facts and context, can transform a moment that might have been damaging into one that underscores credibility and trustworthiness. This episode also shines a light on the ethical dimensions of journalism and public discourse. Leaked information, while often valuable for uncovering truths, demands careful consideration regarding how it is presented and interpreted. The rush to sensationalize can obscure the deeper realities that such documents might reveal, and failing to provide adequate context risks misleading audiences and unfairly damaging reputations. Media figures and journalists alike bear a significant responsibility to uphold standards of accuracy, fairness, and respect for privacy when engaging with such material. Moreover, the rapid and intense public reaction across social media underscores how audiences today are more engaged and discerning than ever. People are not just passive consumers of information. They actively participate in interpreting, critiquing, and amplifying narratives. This dynamic has transformed the media ecosystem into a highly interactive environment where the boundaries between broadcasters and audiences blur. It also raises the stakes for media professionals to be mindful of how their words and actions resonate in a broader, more connected public sphere. The incident serves as a case study in the evolving nature of political communication, where moments that might once have been controlled and scripted are now subject to immediate public scrutiny and feedback. It emphasizes the need for all involved, whether hosts, guests, or audiences, to approach political discourse with a commitment to clarity, civility, and a willingness to engage with complexity rather than resorting to oversimplified narratives or confrontational tactics. In a time when misinformation and polarization often dominate headlines, this event offers a hopeful example of how truth and reasoned dialogue can still prevail. It reminds us that transparency is most powerful when accompanied by responsibility, and that public trust is earned not through spectacle but through integrity and respect. As political and media landscapes continue to evolve, the lessons from this moment remain crucial. Careful preparation, ethical reflection, and composed communication are key to fostering meaningful and constructive public discourse. Ultimately, this incident encourages a deeper reflection on how information is handled and shared in the public arena. It calls on media figures to exercise their influence with care and on audiences to engage critically and thoughtfully. In doing so, it contributes to a more informed, respectful, and resilient democratic society, one where facts matter, context is valued, and dialogue is guided by a shared pursuit of understanding rather than division.